Hey Arvid, how you doing? Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm fine and I'm happy to be here. Thanks.
It's great to have you here. Now, I found you. This is kind of a bit of a wild story, right? I've got an indoor skydiving channel on YouTube, and my brother sent me a video of you indoor skydiving, but in a wingsuit, which blew my mind because I didn't know it was possible, and the level that you're doing at, it, excuse me, and the level that you're doing it at is way beyond anything that I thought was possible. So, can you kind of introduce yourself, kind of explain maybe your background in skydiving, and then take us to what where you're at and what you're doing now.
Yeah, my name is Arvid Endler and I'm from Germany. I'm 27 years old and now almost 3 years full-time instructor at Indoor Wingsuit in Stockholm, what is the first indoor wingsuit facility in the world, and that one exists now a bit longer than 5 years. I started skydiving, I think, with 20-ish. It was just my hobby. So I always knew I want to do that on some point. With 13 or something, I saw the first wingsuit videos and wanted to do it on some point. So I was in the military. I made my own money, so I had the opportunity to pay my license. So then I started skydiving and did it occasionally. So it was my hobby, but I lived in the mountains. So there were so many other cool things to do that, yeah, I did it a couple of weekends a year. And 2017, the tunnel opened. And then, yeah, when I saw it for the first time, I think on Facebook or somewhere, I just thought, okay, perfect. I also want to start wingsuiting, so why not give it a try, go to the tunnel, see how it goes. Then I was in the tunnel, I think 2018 for I think 2 or 3 times in a row, more or less, and did 4 hours in the beginning. And basically, so I learned wingsuiting in the tunnel with the very beginning of instructions because I mean it was completely new. So also the coaches there just started to learn how to coach. But it was really cool. And then I started jumping outside, and what it was super fun straight from the beginning. But it was still just my hobby, and I never actually expected it to become more. But I had a very good understanding with the management and with the other coaches who were there. And then we also kind of joked a little bit about it. I was like, yeah, that's the best place to work at. And maybe on some point, someday, if you need someone, I would like to work here. And eventually that happened. I left the military and then I spent a little bit of time in Germany, worked here and there. Then I wanted to travel. That was beginning 2020. Corona started. I was in Australia. I had basically no money and I would have lost my job in Australia too due to Corona. And then at the same time, I got a message from the management or from the CEO, Jonas, and he was like, yeah, actually, we need new coaches. Would you be interested to join us? And then I thought, yeah, why not? Perfect opportunity. So I managed it like literally one day before Australia closed up. I managed to get to Sweden, and since then I'm full time at the tunnel, and yeah, it's pretty awesome. I couldn't expect and I couldn't imagine how far wingsuiting can go and how far I made it. So I'm pretty impressed by it by myself, actually.
Well, you're definitely impressive. Okay, so let's back up here, and I'm just try to think through it. So, at this point, you skydiving is really split or available maybe in two options, two broad options: indoor and outdoor. Indoor kind of being a traditional, or at this point, a vertical tube where they blow air up and you kind of float in the middle. Now, when you started skydiving, though, it sounds like you got into it what I would call maybe the traditional way, outdoor. Was that because indoor skydiving wasn't a thing back there, or wasn't available, or that was just the? the best option.
Yeah, I would say it was not the best option, and I was not really aware of it. So
Mm.
basically, I didn't know anything about it except I want to do it. And I had holidays or like normal vacation. And what I did
Hmm.
was I checked for the drop zone, what is basically the closest and starts on the first day of my vacation with a license. So this is why I picked this drop zone as a drop zone in Berlin. Otherwise, I could have choose every or any other drop
Hmm.
zone too. So I just arrived there. I had no idea really about the whole thing. I just knew I want to do it, so I did the license, and then afterwards I knew or I heard about the tunnel, and then I also did a bit time, but it's expensive, so I had not so much money, so I stayed outside
Of
mainly.
of course, of course. This is a pricey passion.
Yes.
Now, your motivation for wanting to skydive, have you always been a thrill seeker, or is there something particular about the sport of skydiving that drew you to it?
So I think I can say I'm somehow a thrill seeker.
Okay.
Um, What happened was basically I just started skydiving because I wanted to wingsuit base jump. I saw the videos when I was a kid or like a young
Mm,
teenager, and then I was like, yeah, okay, one day I want to do that. On that point, nobody believed me and nobody really encouraged me to do that. But in the end,
sure.
this is what I wanted to do. Eventually, I also started base jumping, but I still haven't started wingsuit based because now my focus shifted a little bit first to indoor wingsuiting, and I did a lot during Corona. I also don't really felt like traveling. It was all too complicated, and I could learn so much in the tunnel.
That's an interesting call out too. Is that you specifically wanted to do wingsuiting, not just skydiving, but
Yeah, only
you
wingsuiting. I
kind of
knew
saw.
nothing.
Oh, only. Oh, interesting.
So
And so let me ask you this: what's the difference between wingsuiting and then quote unquote normal skydiving?
naja, so in normal skydiving, I can wear whatever clothes I want, and I can more or less only fall vertically and make very little distance horizontally. And in a wingsuit, I wear the suit, and depends on the size of the suit, I can quite a lot increase my surface of the body, what allows me to glide forward. So you can create quite a lot of horizontal distance as well, what makes you feel like you're flying.
A wingsuit suit, if you will, right, has I guess I would refer to it. I don't know the technical term, but I would refer to it as sort of webbing, kind of in between your arms and your body, and then your two legs, and so you kind of look like I've heard the term squirrel suit or squirrel flying as well,
Yeah.
which really drives you forward and is allows you to go forward, not just vertically down. Am I kind of describing, kind of visually what that looks like roughly correctly?
Yeah, so yeah, you do. So it is like a normal, or you can say like a full body suit, like a normal suit you can wear in a tunnel as well. But then in between the arms and the body, and in between both legs, you like added extra surface, and the surface is an air chamber, and basically it inflates as soon as you get out of the airplane or in the tunnel as soon as the tunnel starts running. So the whole suit inflates, creates pressure inside, and also a aerodynamic shape, what makes it more efficient and gives you better performance.
If you're hopping out of a plane and kind of practicing wingsuiting, how fast forward and how fast are you falling when you're wearing these wingsuits?
So that depends totally on basically on the discipline and on what size you wear. Because if you wear a very small suit, so a small suit means you have a pretty small wing surface, then of course you fall faster and you cannot go as far in the distance. But it depends also a little bit on the manufacturer and how they are designed. So you can have small suits and you still get like speeds over 200 kilometers per hour forward, but still you are also still falling like probably like 90 kilometers per hour. And then yeah, sorry. And then there are these very big suits, which are mainly
Hmm.
built for performance. So they create a lot of pressure inside. So they help you actually to stay open. And they try to go for top speeds. And I think they managed to go up to 300 or something like this kilometers per hour.
Whoa.
And
Okay.
I'm not sure what are the lowest numbers for the vertical speed, but I think they can go around 50 or maybe even a bit lower kilometers per
Mm.
hour falling. So you can really get something. And depends if you, for example, if you do a dive and create a lot of speed, you are actually able to climb a little bit after. So a couple of like 50, 100 meter or something like this. Depends also on your skills, on your size, and on your own body weight as well a little bit.
It sounds like these new generation of suits and have so many options, and it also really gives you the opportunity to, I think, get much closer to like to flying. Just that you're moving forward so fast, 200 to 300 kilometers an hour. Let's see here. That's in the range of, I think, 120 to 180 miles an hour forward, which is an incredible speed. So these suits are very capable. And kind of change the discipline a lot. It sounds like.
Yeah, for sure. And they they are developing the suits constantly. So basically, all the big manufacturers they release new suits every year and come up with new ideas, new solutions to reduce drag, create more pressure, and create more performance. What I still wanted to say, if I tell anything wrong with some numbers, I probably might say something wrong here or there. So I think I'm a pretty good flyer and I can explain how to fly pretty well. I'm not 100% into manufacturing and the data. But
No
yeah,
problem. We will not hold you to it. And I don't have like a fact checker yet or like a third party guy, but it's all good. But I think the concept is the same, right? Is that with these wingsuits, you can fall much slower and go horizontally much faster than in a
yeah,
than a traditional skydiver with no equipment whatsoever.
yeah.
Now, is it hard to, or is it more complicated to pull your parachute with these wingsuits? Like, is it? Do you always have access to it?
So ideally, you should always have access to it, but it is more complicated for sure.
Mm.
The problem is if you basically in a straight line bring your hand to your handle, you might have fabric in between. So you might just grab into your wing. So you have to twist your hand around it and grab around it. And then depends on the size and the purpose of the suit, like a performance suit with a lot of pressure, you have to be able to slow the suit down. Otherwise, either you have a very hard opening, or you might not even be able to bring your arms back because the suits they create a lot of pressure. So it will be physically pretty hard to push your arms behind your back because just the suit is pushing your arms out. So you have to flare. So after your flight, you want to kind of slow down, and when you're able to slow down, then it's easier to grab back. And normally, when you start wingsuit skydiving, you should start with a pretty small suit to get a feeling and be able to reach your pilot chute easier. So it is for sure harder to do it.
If you reach back to pull your parachute, does your other arm turn you or throw you off? Because that arm's still inflated, right?
So most of the jumper, they just bring both arms back at the same time so that you stay symmetric. But it is possible to fly with one arm out, and outside you don't see it so often. And actually, when I saw it for the first time, that was way before I started skydiving. I think it was in a base video. I saw someone opening his parachute, and I was like, how is he able to do that? But one arm is still outside. But actually, you can fly pretty asymmetric, and this is something what I discovered a lot in the tunnel. So when I coach, I look to the person I fly with, and then I'm able to point out different parts of my body with my hand, and you can twist your body in a pretty weird way, something what I have never thought about. But yeah, so if you learn how to adjust and compensate, basically, you will be able to keep one arm out and bring the other arm in.
Okay. Okay. So it's possible to kind of overcome that. And
Yeah,
once the parachute is open, do you have the ability to raise your arms or maybe zip away the fabric to have more maneuverability?
yeah. So you have to. All the wingsuits, they have zipper on your arm. So you open and close. Normally, just before the jump, you close your arm zipper, and then as soon as your parachute open, you open your arm zippers again. You can reach up in case you have a line twist or something. So the more modern suits, they allow you some space. You can bring your knees up, and then you can reach your risers. And but to comfortably, yeah, sorry, to be able to reach up and fix like a malfunction or something or start steering, you want to open your arm zippers, and after that also your leg zippers, because the legs are also stuck. You can land with
Hmm.
them closed, but you don't have as much space if you have to run, or you might just damage your leg wing if you kind of walk over it.
Is it more likely that you're going to experience like a malfunction or a technical problem just given that you're moving forward so fast when you throw your parachute, or does that not affect the opening?
It does, because yeah, it does. So I'm not sure if you have more likely or if it's happening more, but it happens. What is pretty common is like a line twist, and that
Hmm.
probably happens in a wingsuit more often than without a wingsuit, because the problem is when you're flying forward and then you reach back, it is way more difficult to stay stable. But during the opening, you basically still want to keep your body symmetric, keep flying forward or falling forward, and without twisting. But as soon as you have like a little asymmetry in your shoulders, for example, that might be
Hmm.
enough that you start rotating. And then the other problem with the wingsuit is you are flying forward. That means you have, with this large surface, quite big burble behind you. And if your parachute stays in there for a little bit too long, it might already come out then with a malfunction. And the most common thing is a line twist.
The line twist.
Yeah.
But that's as far as malfunctions go, right? That's on the I don't want to say it's on the better end of the spectrum or the right in kind of the range of stuff that can happen.
To everyone. Yeah.
Okay, okay.
So I mean, yeah,
Sure.
it can happen, and it happens to let's say normal or non-wingsuiting skydivers as well. But
Sure.
another problem then with the wingsuit is if you start spinning fast, you need to open your zippers. And if you have a smaller canopy, or if you have bad luck and your canopy starts diving straight away and you start spinning, it becomes harder and harder to open it. So in fact, I had so far one reserve, and that was in a after like a shitty opening, and I started spinning so quick that I actually struggled to reach my handles. And that was something I heard before, that the spinning can be so hard and so fast that it is hard to reach up. And I was always thinking, nah, okay, so might not happen to me. I think I'm quite fit, so should be able, I should be able to handle that. But I managed it, but I was really surprised how quick the spin started, and how hard it actually was then to reach my handles. Um, so this is something what is not so fun to experience in a wingsuit because you're pretty limited in the whole suit then in a situation where it really fucks up.
How high off the ground were you at the, like, did you have plenty of time, or were you nervous about
Yeah,
the altitude?
so I was no, I was not nervous about the altitude because it was a super relaxed jump and
Mm.
I didn't push it for the opening, so I think I opened around 1,000 meter or something, and it started basically straight away. So I at the moment I pulled, I noticed a second or half a second, I don't know. It felt like I had a long time, but on the video it was pretty quick. So everything feels so much longer in the moment when it happens. So I felt it pretty quick that there was something. I was already prepared I was thinking about, okay, is it a malfunction? Do I have to open? And then the canopy caught some air and instantly I started spinning. So then I did a
Mm.
cutaway. Then I was spinning so hard that was still spinning under the reserve. And after I was done with the reserve and could fly normal again, I think I was on probably like 600 meters or something. So it was not crazy low.
Okay. Wow, though. You spent 2400 meters kind of diagnosing and solving that problem, though. That must have been
Was it
an intense
400 meters? Oh, so like
oh,
from 1,000 to 600.
from 1,000. Okay, sorry. I thought you opened it at 3,000. You
No,
opened at
no,
a
no, no,
1,000.
no. So normally, so you jump out
Uh
normally at 4,000 meters, and
okay.
then you open in between, yeah, let's say in average you open in between like 1,000, and then depends if you are new to wingsuiting, you probably open at 1,500 just to have extra time if something goes wrong. So it was 400 meters
400 feet. Okay, I'm sorry. I was
ish.
converting to I was converting in my head to in between feet and meters,
Ah,
and
yeah,
I think didn't it's that's the what is it, the Mars rover problem all over again.
yeah,
Okay, gotcha. So if I understand this right, so you exit the plane or jump out. You said 4,000 meters, and then
yeah,
pull around 1,000.
yeah.
Okay, so
So
you have a flight time of about 3,000 vertical meters.
yeah, exactly.
And how long of a jump does that get you?
So I would say on that point I flew a quite big suit, and I think we flew probably around like 2.5 minutes, maybe something close
Mm.
to 3 minutes. It depends also. You can jump with a big suit or like with a big surface wingsuit and still go pretty steep, and then you burn a lot of altitude, but you're very fast. So what can be also super fun. But on that jump, we were pretty flat because we flew together with a canopy. So one guy jumped out, opened his parachute, we followed him, and then we flew together with him. He was on a canopy and we flew with the wingsuit. And then you fly pretty flat and
Mm.
also quite slow. So we had a probably like 2.5, maybe almost 3 minutes or something. I don't know. It was a long flight.
Okay, that's really interesting. I didn't realize you could do that. So one person had opened their parachute and was just flying it normal, and you can kind of maintain altitude and speed
Yeah,
with that person.
yeah.
Oh
But
wow.
they, the canopy pilots who do that, they fly very fast and pretty small canopies. So,
Okay.
I mean, I have a lot of wingsuit time now in the tunnel, but I'm not, so from my numbers, I'm not considered experienced skydiver. I know wingsuiting, I know flying, but I would never go even close to what they jump. So they have, I think the guy I flew with had 72 square feet. And
Was his parachute or canopy
yeah,
size?
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Um, and that's pretty fast.
And the So what are the advantages and maybe risks of flying a smaller canopy?
Oh, with the canopies. So
Hmm.
the advantages are you are way faster, and it's a whole discipline by itself, like swooping
Hmm.
when they come down with really high speed, and then maintain the speed, like flare in the landing, and try to be horizontal over the ground for as long as possible. But this is also very difficult. So it's a sport within the sport, basically. And for wingsuiting or then for base jumping, you want to have a quite big wingsuit, quite big canopy, because the bigger the canopy is, the more likely it will open in a smooth way, and also in with a large wingsuit, what creates big bubbles. If you then have a very small canopy, as soon as that one catches a little bit of turbulences or something, it might go crazy immediately. And with a big canopy, they have also less tendency to dive. And then you have also for base jumping, you have like very or for wingsuiting, you have very huge cells, so the canopies inflate super well, most likely also pretty even, but therefore in the end they have a very thick profile and fly slow, but you have a safe and good opening.
I never thought about that, where kind of your wingsuit really dictates a lot about which canopy and you use and kind of how you use it.
Yeah, all your skills, because I would never go like very small, but they are very good wingsuit pilots, which are also very good canopy pilots. And there are people who do quite crazy stuff with that together. But yeah, for that, I know the wingsuit part pretty well, but I need a couple of more holidays in summer to to jump so much that I can fly that.
Sure, sure. Now, how experienced of a skydiver were you before you started wingsuiting?
I was a total beginner, so I did
Oh.
basically just what was recommended in Germany. So you do your license, then you have to do 200 jumps, and with 200 jumps you
Hmm.
can start wingsuiting. So I think I started wingsuiting with 205 or 10 or something. So as soon as I could, I did it. But I already had, so on my first wingsuit jump, I had 1.5 hours from the tunnel, and it was enough that I jumped out of the airplane and I was able to fly the wingsuit. It was stable. I felt comfortable from the beginning till the end. So I jumped out, practiced pulling basically. So did a couple of practice touches and then flew my pattern, and yeah, was super happy. So it was really fun from the beginning. But yeah, I was super early on.
For reference, it's often a lifelong dream or like a bucket list, right, to go skydiving, and usually they think of it, hey, I'm going to go jump once. But
Uh,
and when they hear somebody like you has 200 had 200 skydives and was a really, relatively speaking, a beginner before they went wingsuiting, what is what is like an experienced skydiver? How many jumps would they have?
a couple of thousands.
Okay. Okay. Right.
So yeah, um, I mean, often they also worked on drop zones or spent their times as instructors or as tandem masters, and then so in the tunnel, this is where I mainly meet skydivers. I don't jump so much in the summer or in the last 2 years, um, but mainly I meet right now the skydivers in the tunnel, and there are a lot of our customers. They have thousands of jumps. So
Which is, I think, mind blowing to kind of the average person, right? Who's like, you not only are you jumping regularly, but it's thousands of times. Yeah, it's quite a unique world where I think the experience is all lopsided and in the hands of a few. Now, okay, let's talk about the transition to the tunnel. And now you would refer to the tunnel. Would you still say indoor skydiving or indoor wingsuiting? Indoor wingsuiting is the name of the tunnel, correct?
Yeah, I would also
Okay.
say in the wingsuiting because you cannot do anything else than wingsuiting in that tunnel. In a normal vertical tunnel, you can do basically all the disciplines except with the canopy. You cannot fly your canopy there. But if you're pretty good in head-down flying, you can also fly your wingsuit in a vertical tunnel. But in our tunnel, if you go there without the wingsuit, you will just stand on the floor. So it's not steep enough, and also not fast enough to blow you up on that point anymore. So there you need something way more inclined than what we have.
Right, right. Okay, so this indoor tunnel is basically, I would describe it as a metal tube with glass, or at least glass, or maybe plastic windows and padding everywhere, angled at a pretty severe angle. I don't know. Do you know what angle it's actually pitched off at?
I'm I don't. So I know we work with the glide ratio. So right the
Okay.
the glide ratio we use the most of the time is 1.6, means for 1 meter you fall down, you make 1.6 meters forward. This is quite steep. Or so what for an intermediate sized wingsuit, it's an angle where you can fly relaxed. So you don't have to stretch out and try to get everything out of your suit. You can fly relaxed, but therefore, if you or ramp up the speed, you have a lot of power. So it's super cool for acro moves where you need a lot of reserves in your wing. If you flatten out everything, so basically you are just like an airplane, everything is completely under tension, as far stretched out as possible. There's nothing else left really to create a fast spin or something. You can just drop if you put your arm in. But if how we fly, if you're a bit more relaxed, you have a straight body, but your arms are from the front, you see the head and the arms go like a V out to the side, so they are a little bit behind your body. But that means if you quickly push your arms forward, you can generate a lot of power. And if you do it just on one side, for example, you can do either a quick transition or like barrel rolls or multiple barrel rolls. So this is the fun part about acrobatic flying. And we can change actually the glide ratio. So if you want to
Oh,
train with a big suit, we can go down to 2.8. Like 1 meter falling makes you fly 2.8 meter forward. And there you can fly basically the biggest suits which are available on the market. You can fly them there. And it's also a bit challenging. You might not fly the speed what you can get outside. Inside, I think we are limited right now to 160 kilometers per hour forward speed. But it's still so with the big suits, you still feel it. You have to work to fly proper on that angle or on that
and
glide ratio.
are you changing the glide ratio just by increasing or decreasing the wind speed?
No, so the whole tunnel is, or the whole flight chamber is connected to a huge hydraulic system. So
Really?
yeah, so it just pushes the tunnel up so that it's more steep or lowers it down. And behind the tunnel there are like turning vanes which bring the wind back into the tube, and then the tunnel and the turning vanes they have to adjust, and then you can yeah put it more steep or more flat.
And this is a fairly big tunnel that we're describing here. How many wingsuiters have you had in it at one time?
Oh, I think seven, seven so far. We,
Okay.
we just we just flew with seven, I think 2 weeks ago or something. Um, that is pretty crowded. So you are
Yeah.
able to move, and you are able to, for example, like fly as a in a big rotation, um, but it's pretty slow. And this is just because you need seven very, very skilled people to do that. And even then, we almost never do that, and we never have seven there at the same time who are willing to do that or who wanna and can do that. So
Sure.
there's just no experience really with it. But it's pretty fun.
I mean, if I fly in the tunnel with my brother, and we're relatively inexperienced, and it gets crowded, just the two of us, because we find it difficult to stay stable,
Yeah.
right? Now, now, do you started indoor wingsuiting, and it sounds like you had a substantial amount of time. I think you said an hour and a half or so before you even went outside to it.
Mhm.
So it sounds like you don't need any experience to start in
No,
an indoor wingsuit.
no.
Wow.
So everyone can try it. We also have normal first timer, like in a vertical tunnel. So there's no experience needed. We have basically we have three steps or two steps before you are able to fly by yourself. The first
Hmm.
step, you will get a harness under your wingsuit, and we have a rope system in the tunnel. So we hook you there, and the ropes prevent you from falling down. So when you are hooked, you cannot lay on the floor basically. That helps you if you're not able to create enough lift in the beginning, so then you're just hanging. You will also not be able to touch the walls. So in case you do quick maneuvers towards the wall, the ropes will stop it. And additionally, we are always there as coaches. And in the first sessions, we usually have a hand like on the wrist and on the shoulder of the person inside to stabilize or control them so that they cannot pitch up all the way in the ceiling. And if they go back to the net, we handle that in a way that we slow them down. Because, yeah, like in a vertical tunnel, you can crash. And normally it happens pretty quick from you're stable to you just move very fast towards the wall or towards somewhere. And with that extra surface, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
with
when
that.
things go bad, they go really bad, right?
Yeah, so I think our coaching is now on a pretty good level. We know what to tell, we know what to look for, and
Hmm.
as soon as you are stable with your flying position, able to control your movements in all directions. And then we also have to practice landings because it's something what you don't have to do outside, but we have the back net where you have to be able to land and you have the mattresses. And as soon as you're able to land and fly stable and safe, the next step is on a leash. So we basically hold you like on a dog leash. You have to fly now completely by yourself. Otherwise, you can now just drop to the floor. But in case you, yeah, do movements too aggressive, you go too fast to the ceiling or too fast to the net, we can also with the leash slow everything down. On the leash, it's the same again. You just need some time there till you have the control over the wingsuit. Your landings, they have to be precise and safe, and then you can fly by yourself. And normally, as soon as you are able to fly by yourself, we as coaches jump in with a wingsuit too, and we fly together. So we try to keep it as safe as possible, but everyone, you don't need to be skydiver, you don't need to have any experience with anything. You can just come there and try it.
Wow. Okay. And then you being in the tunnel. So with, like let's say I'm just starting out and I'm in the harness. You can be in the tunnel with no wingsuit and walk around. Is it relatively easy for you to walk around and maneuver?
Yeah, but was standing in the tunnel now the past 3 years, so in
Okay.
the beginning, if you would go inside, you will be able probably pretty quick to keep standing and probably also walk around. But it's hard on higher speed. It is just something what you have to learn too. So it's part of the instructor training. Um, you learn how to coach. You learn how to yeah, see mistakes and coach the right way of flying. But you also just spend some time without a suit in the tunnel because you have to be able to move quickly with and like grab forward, for example, and then the wind should not just blow your hand away. So you have to be able to do that. And after a
Mm.
couple of yeah some hours in the tunnel, you you basically also just constantly adjust and keep the tension in your body so that you don't get blown around. So it's usually when we coach, it's around, I would say, 130 to 150. That's something where we stand on this wind speed, and it's sideways, so you constantly have to lean into the wind.
Sure, sure. Now, how do you find that most of your students like it's typical that they need, I don't know, 30 minutes in the harness before they move to the leash before they can fly, or is there kind of a natural progression?
It depends. If you have experience with a wingsuit, most likely you will
Mm.
manage to fly by yourself faster. But I would say the average might be like half an hour in the harness, and then
Hmm.
probably like half an hour harness, half an hour on the leash as well. And then it really depends. So if you have some experience, today we had someone, for example, I think he flew with my colleague, and he spent 4 minutes with him in the harness, and then he was done. So basically, he went through all the
Mm.
exercises, did them once, was able to do them. Okay, good, next step. So then this went to the leash. So that happens. It's not common. So I would say most people are at least 20 minutes in the harness,
Okay.
but that works.
And see, I think that's one of the biggest biggest advantages of these, this indoor facility. Let's say like an hour that's an enormous amount of outdoor skydiving or outdoor wingsuiting time that you can get relatively quickly in this indoor environment.
Yeah. So it's the same like in the vertical tunnel. It really boosts your skills. Plus, the way you spend the time is more efficient than if you would
Mm.
do the same outside. So 1 hour of flying time in the tunnel is not the same as 1 hour of flying time outside. Because of the tunnel, you have constantly a reference. So you have to keep your position and you learn how to keep your position very precise. We as coaches can either stand next to you or fly next to you, and in case you do something wrong, for example, you do a transition from the belly to the back, but your position is not good enough to keep flying, you drop the meter and then you end up on the mattresses, and you can 5 seconds later or something, you're back in the air. In the sky, there's a pretty high chance that you are like maybe a couple of 100 meters even below the coach. So then you have to catch the student again, and try to get the jump together again. So the way we can teach is way more efficient. In the beginning, it might be a bit intimidating because you really notice how little inputs from your body make you move. But this is why we have the harness and the leash. As soon as you are through that, you can really learn super quick.
With an hour and a half, that's an enormous amount of wingsuit time. Before you transition to outside. Yeah, I imagine you're able to build up your skill level pretty quickly. So now you also compete in wingsuiting.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
okay. What is like? I don't even know what is a wingsuit competition.
So there are two disciplines. One is wingsuit acrobatic and one is wingsuit performance. What I
Hmm.
did in the past 2 years, and that was basically just because of the tunnel. I never thought about it before, and I just got the skills to be able to do acrobatic flying through the tunnel. And on an acrobatic competition, you have 4 jumps. You are in a team, so two people fly together, and the third person is flying besides, above, or below, and is filming the whole thing. 4 jumps are jumps where you have to fulfill like preset moves. So there are 12 moves, and then randomly they got chosen, and then you have three in each of these jumps, and then you just do one, two, three, one, two, three, one, two, three. So you do them in a row as many times as possible till you have to stop, basically. So there's a altitude window. As soon as you exit the airplane, your time starts, and then on a certain point, your time is over. And yeah,
Okay. So what's an example of like one of these moves or one of these
so
formations?
one of the, let's say, easiest to explain moves is just one person is flying around the other person till he's back on his previous position, and then the other person is doing that as well. And that is called revolution. It sounds easy, but it's actually one of the more complicated moves because it's a long distance you have to move.
Mm,
And you lose the visual connection to your partner. So that is something where you can lose a lot of time. And another move, what is it's called yin yang. So you do a transition. We fly next to each other, and one person is doing a transition to the back. Then you have to like grab the hand of your partner. He's transition from the back to the belly. You have to do a hand dog again, and then the other person is doing that. So transition, transition, and then the other person is doing a transition, transition. And in between of all the moves, you always do a hand dog. And basically, when the hand dog is clean, so really hand in hand, and it's obviously visible also on the video, then you get a point. And these are basically the points you can make. And then if you have a move what takes a long time, you don't do as many points per round as
mm.
when you have like this transition, two transitions, and then the other one is doing two transitions. These are then 4 points. And if you're able to do a quick transition, you can do that in, yeah, probably like in 4 seconds or something like this. In the tunnel, it goes faster. Outside, not as fast, but there you can do a lot of points.
Do you have a do you have a fixed team where two of you are flyers and one is the film, or do you kind of rotate roles or positions?
So in our team, we didn't rotate. It is my my acro partner. He is the chief instructor at our tunnels. We are both German. He
Hmm.
started 1 year before me, and basically because we both work there full time and we have the opportunity to fly there a lot, we perform the acrobatic moves. And he had an acro team before, and the one of the guys from the team before is filming us.
Gotcha. And you were world champions last year.
No, no, no. We it would have been nice, but last
Okay.
year actually the competition was not happening because of Corona and or kind of Corona, and then not enough teams signed up for the competition. So then there was not enough teams, so they canceled. And 2021, when I
Mm.
basically started to compete, that was my first competition, was on the World Championships, what was pretty fun because that was, yeah, like a big event in Russia. And there we became third. So there
Okay.
was, yeah.
Oh,
Uh,
awesome. The indoor tunnel must give you a huge advantage, though, right?
yeah.
With okay.
So basically, the team what became first, they were instructors at our tunnel. So they are a couple, and he was my coach when I started in the wing. So 2018, when I was the first time, there were other coaches as well, but I was also coached a little bit by him. And the second team was from Norway, and they are tunnel instructors as well in the vertical tunnel and in the wingsuit tunnel, but they don't work full time. They are freelancing, so they come once every month, once every 2 months for a week and do camps there. So, and then basically the places after were more or less the more tunnel time you had, the higher rank you were. So it is um, a very big boost into acrobatic.
It's interesting to see that, right, there's a direct correlation with the indoor skydiving and indoor wingsuiting, and then the outdoor performance. What's the other
Discipline.
competition?
Um, First, there's one more part about the acro. So these are called compulsory rounds where you just fly these moves, and then there are three times a free routine. So basically, the team can just create whatever they want. So you want to integrate your camera flyer, and then you want to do cool moves, and
Hmm.
it is really like if you have a good video, if it looks cool, then more likely you will win. And of course, the more advanced the moves are and the more difficult you're flying, the better. But it's not always visible how difficult the move is if you perform it pretty well. So, because also there are not so many wingsuiters who are able to fly on that kind of level, means like not many people overall really understand how difficult things are. That's often even something from the tunnel. You do something in the tunnel, but nobody can really understand that this is difficult or not. So if you can make it look easy, then yeah, it might not
Okay,
be difficult.
there's a
Uh,
bit of showmanship that's needed here.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly. So it's create a cool video, fly a cool routine with your partner, and then as long as it's better, better video, better quality, nicer moves, then you can win that points. And then the other discipline is
Well,
performance.
well, now before
Yeah.
before you say that, I didn't even think about that. Who are the judges? Given that there's only a few, kind of a few people who are really dominating the sport. How do you find the judges in these competitions?
So they are already of, I think they are already all of them are judges in other, so from other competitions and from other disciplines in skydiving.
Mm.
So they they kind of get into that. Some of them did wingsuiting as well, um, but in the end, so if you have a good understanding of the sport and if you know what is a point, like if there's a good explanation what defines like your hand dog and when it's a point or not, then you just or you need to watch the videos, you need to know the rules, and then it is your decision if you see that it's clean. And because there are other competitions which work also with hand dogs and foot dogs and all this kind of stuff, so you can relate. What is difficult is the free routine because this is just something what every team can create. And of course, if everyone is doing something else than the others, then you can also not really compare. Then it's very much about what looks nicer.
Mm.
So
Mm.
because
Gotcha.
that is hard to rank then, like to be like, okay, that was very difficult, so you get a lot of points. Yeah, like I said, if it's not visible that it's difficult, then who can say?
Right, right. It becomes much more subjective, right?
Yeah,
Who's better and who's not. Oh, that's
yeah.
interesting. And is the free routine the other discipline, or what is the other
No,
discipline?
that is part of the acrobatic competition. So you have
Okay.
four compulsory rounds and three times a free routine,
Mm.
and then in the end you have the winner. And the other competition, the other discipline is wingsuit performance, and there you have time, distance, and speed. And basically, there you want to stay either as long as possible in the air or in a certain window, um, or you want to fly the longest distance, or you want to yeah reach the highest speed. So they all just they jump alone, they jump with GPS, and then the GPS will yeah be how you call it
Track the
tracked.
metrics kind of thing.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and and then the data. will be used to define who was the fastest or who could stay in the window the longest. And that, yeah.
It sounds like you prefer the team competition.
Naja, so I have no no experience with performance. I
Hmm.
will probably try it sooner or later when I have time. But in the past, so basically, I'm now 3 years working in the tunnel, and I would say for 2 years now, I'm pretty good wingsuit acrobatic flyer. I might be good in performance as well because I just fly a lot and I know how to use my body, and it requires, of course, some training. Um, but I just never had really the time. We decided to compete in acrobatic, so then I spent the whole time jumping, practicing with Patrick, my teammate, and train. And now in the next years, when I have time, I hope I will be able to get into the other disciplines as well. But I also want to continue coaching indoor and outdoor, and this is something what I almost would say I almost do that more, or I prefer that than doing a competition because so it is a very small sport so far, so there are not it's not like really huge competitions, and then you spend a lot of time on the ground just waiting till you are able to do your next jump. And if you don't have so much vacation, then spending a week without doing many jumps is like, oh, a little bit of waste. So right now I really feel like I either wanna do a lot of fun jumps and try whatever I can try, or
Hmm.
yeah, like a little bit more efficient, like really use the time, jump as much as I can.
Yeah, yeah. That's I didn't realize that these competitions are spread out. It sounds like over a week.
Yeah, so I think it's like probably like a Monday to Thursday or like a 4 day, 5 day thing.
Hmm.
Depends also on the weather. So far on I just competed in three competitions, two times the German national and one time the World Championships. And every time the weather was kind of bad. So we were waiting a lot for the right weather.
Gotcha. Got the conditions have to be right.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So what are your plans for this year?
Yeah, so I try to start to coach more. So
Hmm.
I will go to Australia in April, 1 week of fun jumping, 1 week coaching. I will most likely do maybe one or two smaller camps here in Sweden, and then I will see what I can do with the rest of the time.
I'm hoping eventually to make it out to your tunnel, and hopefully you could be my coach and teach me how to
That would be cool.
indoor wingsuit. Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun, wouldn't it? Hey, thank you for being on the podcast. Is there anywhere on social media where you'd like to direct people to watch you do this?
So yeah, either on my Instagram, what is just Arvid Endler, or what is probably easier to find is if you just go for in the wingsuit. Um, and over that page, there are a lot of videos from all of us coaches flying, from customers flying, and also from a little bit from how we do the handling there. And from that page, you can easily find me as well. I'm usually in a blue wingsuit. So yeah,
Perfect, perfect. Well, hey, thanks for coming on.
welcome. Thank you. Thank you for asking me.